As Muslims, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us to respect our women and to protect our women. Then the only time a Muslim really gets real violent is when someone goes to molest his woman. We will kill you for our woman. I'm making it plain, yes. We will kill you for our woman. We believe that if the white man will do whatever is necessary to see that his woman gets respect and protection, then you and I will never be recognized as men until we stand up like men and place the same penalty over the head of anyone who puts his filthy hands out to put in the direction of our women.
These are the words of civil rights icon Malcolm X, the culmination of a 1962 speech from the funeral service of Ronald Stokes, who passed at the hands of an LAPD officer. You're likely already familiar with the sentences that precede these words. Beyoncé sampled them in Lemonade. Meg Thee Stallion projected them on SNL. The words uttered prior are, "The most disrespected woman in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected woman in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman," and so on. But I have a challenge to the end of Malcolm X's speech. My challenge is this. On the thesis that Black men have protected Black women, have they come through? Has anyone? Have Black men respected their women, gotten violent when someone molested their women? Have they marched for Black women like we have for them? Or have they and others been violent to Black women, molested Black women, and sat on the sidelines as we fight for our equal rights? This is a conversation about the safety of Black female lives. Tonight on Before We Wrap. Please feel free to have a seat. Chelsea, you can go there.
Okay.
You can go there. Oh, how's your day going?
Good so far. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for coming to join this conversation. So I want to start with you just introducing yourselves really quickly.
I'm a clinical psychologist. I founded the Wellness Center, which is a private mental health psychology clinic 18 years ago. And I'm the mother of 2 adult grown children.
Glad to have them out of the house, aren't you?
Yeah. I don't know. I miss them a lot.
Oh.
So I think that empty nest excitement is a little overrated.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you can keep all of your excitement then, if that's the case.
I've got several years of excitement ahead still even. But Dr. Chelsea Walton, I'm a clinical psychologist at the Wellness Center, working alongside Shannon and some other wonderful colleagues. I have a 2.5-year-old, Ethan, and yeah, he's very rambunctious.
Adorable.
Adorable.
He's like a pretty baby.
He's a gorgeous baby.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not just biased.
No, you're not biased at all.
Okay.
I want to start off with, what is racism? If we had to define it, what would we say racism is?
It's a belief that one race is superior than another race based on that difference, right? Race, and having differences in power as well to keep one group oppressed or marginalized. That's how I would pretty much define it and what I understand it as.
And certainly often those differences in power are then shifted into the systems. I think we have to look at where that power dynamic shift comes from to begin with. And so let's go to slavery. We're just going to talk about good old slavery.
Just ease in. Just let's ease into
it.
Let's go slow.
So there's a difference. You know, we're having this conversation. We're in the Caribbean right now. And there's a difference between the population of slaves in the Caribbean versus the U.S. and, you know, certainly the way that things played out. Can you tell us a little bit about just some of that difference in terms of even just the population?
Right. The things that I know, I've gained through research related to some of what I've been working on for my PhD dissertation, which is looking at sort of the role of the Caribbean family and Caribbean parenting. And so through that lens, I did a lot of research looking into what is the history of the transatlantic slave trade and what, if any, impact has it had on family systems throughout the Caribbean. And what I was really shocked to find out, which I had no idea, was that I want to say the majority of enslaved Africans did not end up in the United States or Canada or the Americas, but in fact, the majority of enslaved Africans ended up in the Caribbean or in Brazil, and about 5% in America.
5% in the States.
Yeah.
But that's where we have so much of our knowledge.
Less than 500,000, and about 5 million in the Caribbean and 4 million in Brazil.
And so in this power dynamic, what really was the role of the Black woman? What was kind of the value or some of the experiences of the Black woman in that time?
The value of the Black woman was very low in the beginning because they were not as able to do some of the labor that was required in the early years. But then I think what quickly became evident was they could be producers of commodity. So they could be a supplier of inventory. And so that made them much more valuable to the colonizer.
You asking about kind of what Black enslaved women's kind of role was or their worth and stuff like that. A lot of times those mothers were then used as kind of like wet nurses to then, nurse and care for the colonizers' offspring, right? Rather than being able to tend to her own child, right? And then
that's
also
so interesting. I want to stick a pin in that really quickly because I think we've seen this a lot. The kind of Black woman who puts her own needs to the side and takes care of everyone else around her. And so even in that situation, it is even though I have my own child, who I'm sure in the innermost parts, mothers naturally want to care for their children, but you kind of have to put that aside. And we now have this dynamic where we are accustomed to putting our feelings aside in order to care for whoever around us needs to get cared for.
Right. As a new mother, you have a need to be close to your child. You're biologically designed that way, right? To form bonds and attachment. And nursing your child is a way of helping the body kind of heal after pregnancy and return to kind of a normal state. Just even thinking back into slavery and like that period, right? Like women having to be removed from their children later on too, with like certain the development of certain fields within medicine. A lot of enslaved women were used to, design procedures, and they were used for experimentation, essentially. So I think Black women historically have always been seen as having a higher threshold for pain, like their humanity and their femininity, like those have not been weighted the same as those of white women.
Yeah, that is part of why it is so frustrating when there is that pushback around the conversation of the differences, about the uniqueness of the Black female experience. I'm also intrigued about how gender plays a role in this. There was still more value placed on the Black male whose labor was productive in a different way than the Black female. So I'm wondering if there are ways that you kind of see this playing out in psychology and maybe even ways that it affects the way that we treat the next generation coming onwards.
I think one of the things that I learned in a lot of my research was that, so if you can think back to that sort of slave society, and as a parent, you know that your child, when they get to be a certain age, is going to be taken from you and sold. And oftentimes what happened to ensure that the slave communities themselves were kept quite unstable. They would move slaves around, especially across the Caribbean diaspora. So they would separate families, because they didn't really want people to be connected. They didn't want there to be that close ties, because then you want to start to take care of each other. Then you want to band together, look out. So as a parent, and my research is looking at sort of the role of attachment. And so you don't fall in love with somebody you know is going to be taken, right? And you have almost that pressure of feeling like, okay, if this baby is strong enough, they will survive. And so that nurturing wasn't there. That mother went to nurture other white children, and her own children put the emphasis for their own survival on their ability to survive.
If the idea is to make sure that the power stays imbalanced, as you were talking about, then also there's not an incentive to keep the slaves together, right? You want to make sure that men can't protect women, and that opportunity for that instinctual need to protect their family and their kin cannot be acted upon because they are going to be separated. And therefore you get women in a situation where they are saying, well, we have to survive by ourselves, for ourselves, and we're going to have to provide for other people as well. No one is here to protect us.
Yeah. Right. Like it creates kind of like that superwoman trope then.
Yeah.
Right. Where I think that is part of that trickle down, right? It's like, well, I can do it all by myself. Like, I've got this. I don't really need you. Right. And so it keeps families apart. Right. And then also with like Black men, maybe how they perceive Black women, right? Not valuing them in the way that they do maybe women of other races.
Yeah. Let's talk about the ways that might actually harm us today, that attachment being broken in different ways historically. What are some of the ways that can actually perpetuate issues that we have down the line, whether it be in the nuclear family unit, with the offspring, that sort of thing?
I think we see the sort of the threads of this historical trauma in our world today, in that we see perceptions of the Caribbean mother, the Black Caribbean mother, as harsh, as rough, not loving, and not like nurturing. And it's often perceived as a fault in her, right? It's a character flaw in who she is innately as a person. But if we understand it from the perspective through the lens of understanding epigenetics and slavery, then we understand that it is actually a very adaptive, very protective, very functional pattern of child rearing that served a purpose for her and for her children. It probably is what kept them alive, right? It's what allowed them to develop what they needed to, given the circumstances of their life,
in order to survive.
That. And so we look down on that mother with great contempt, and we tell her she needs parenting skills and she needs workshops. But really what she needs is a society who is willing to do the work to understand her.
Well, I wonder if that actually puts us at greater physical risk as well, because if people are looking at you as though you don't need to be protected, you are stronger, you are this, that, and the other. If you don't need to be protected, then you are more liable to get hurt by things that will hurt everyone else. You don't have the same...
You don't have the same cushion, the same support.
Yeah.
What do we do about this?
I guess, kind of going back to that point of like creating these spaces where we can have productive conversation.
As psychologists, obviously, who operate in the world of sort of behaviors and belief systems and patterns of thinking and patterns of relationships, I think it's understanding the history and looking at why we are the way we are today, why are the relationships the way, and understanding that then allows us to take accountability, right? But also to make sure that the next generation has that sense of who they are, that understanding of who they are. We need to not be afraid of these conversations. They can be uncomfortable, they can be difficult, they can be divisive, but ultimately, I think our country needs them so that we can be healthy.
Yeah. The world at large needs them. I will say, to your credit, Shannon, I don't think I've been in therapy for a long time, and I have never seen language about decolonization on a website like homepage. So I peeped that real quick at the start of the process. Thank you both so much for joining us. Dr. Walton, Shannon, thank you so much for joining us. It is time now for Shady Shoutouts. I saw you from a distance away. I could feel your presence. I imagined the feeling of your breath on my skin. It terrified me. You were insatiable, unstable. There was no answer that I could give that would fill the need that you bequeathed on me in your holler. I sit by myself in a not completely empty train car. I comfort myself with my thoughts and these images on Instagram. I walk to the rhythm of silent earpods and listen to the street noise eavesdropping for your footsteps behind mine. I spend all day trying to be seen. But because of you, right now, I try to be invisible because I see you at a distance, waiting, and I can't let it be for me. Shady shout out to the ego. The narcissistic tendencies formed by toxic masculinity and the trauma that you gained while trying to fight for your own survival so that now you endanger mine. May you, ego, die.
We're falling apart with a hole in our hearts. I don't know any way around it or how to heal the land. Look what we've done, and now we burn like the sun. And with every tree that falls away, we dig our own graves. Is there anybody out there not afraid to say that they care? 'Cause I don't wanna die here when the answer is so clear. I don't wanna live forever. I just wanna save tomorrow. Only if we come together, we can stop her pain and soul, mother. Oh, mother, let's not forget how much we've suffered at the hands of one another. Will we ever recover? What will the future be if we cannot save our mother? Oh, ooh, on barren land we stand. Tell me, will you take my hand? Will you try to find a way to empathize with the very ground you walk upon? Knowing without us she has no one to lean on. I don't want to live forever. I just want to save tomorrow. Only if we come together, we can stop her pain inside, mother. Oh, mother, let's not forget how much we've suffered at the hands of one another. Will we ever recover? What will the future be if we cannot save our mother? Oh, 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 oh. you're not strong, and I'm gonna be your friend. I'll help you carry on.